scorekeeping, data, and all. And that's interesting because he actually came back with a point that I think a lot of people are maybe not seeing, or they're not familiar with esports in general. They only see the highlights, and that's what I was saying for a long time. Yeah, whenever you see something on social media, it's pretty much a highlight. And that's what I like from two people that are actually online and trying to explain esports more in general. The two that I'm actually following, Chris Smith, he's an esports gaming influencer, as he calls himself, and Chris Reed. And Chris Reed, actually, esports tech startup advisor, content creator. He's doing a podcast like me, but he's doing it mostly on LinkedIn. And actually, compliments to him, because I actually see quite an audience on his shows on LinkedIn. But I would definitely follow these two guys if you want to know more about esports. But hey, here it comes. Esports had a lot of issues in the industry that the industry is ignoring. There's a huge mid-season issue where teams only get massive attention during World Championships. It's a hard narrative to follow throughout the year. It's hard to monetize because the reach of most esports teams are small, but when compared to influencers. And many esports games are hard to follow unless you are a hardcore gamer. I feel like everyone in the esports industry is trying to solve problem number 374 before they solve problem number 2. You know, I think I know something about esports, but this is something that I've been hearing more and more. Although we say it's for the mass, the professional side of things, it's really for the hardcore user gamer. And yeah, there are a lot of also indie teams out there that I think find it difficult to survive, and it remains sort of a hobby. So brings me to think that I actually should make an episode all about esports, and where different kind of people can comment. I mean, are you an indie team? Do you make money? Or is it a hobby? Is it fun? Is it maybe now starting to be annoying that you can't actually make it to a league or a final? So yeah, more stakeholders from the esports industry to get a sense of esports in general. So that's about the news, besides the fact that Endgame Interactive closed 3 million seed. Why am I saying this? Well, it was led by Makers Funds. So the investment will be used to develop cross-platform multiplayer games, something I always very much like. Additional investors include Supercell, Unity founder and CEO. No, that's not CEO, right? Games industry. He was the Unity founder, is the Unity founder, and was the CEO, David Helgeson, and the Twitch founder Kevin Lin. So I think that sums it up for the news of this week. Oh yeah, Facebook cancels their conference. Apparently they have also growing concerns. So I guess that's not hot topics anymore. If there are any events in the next upcoming weeks, maybe 2 months from now, most likely they will be cancelled. So my advice, check on your tickets, see if it's refundable, and stay safe and healthy. That's normally how I always would end my episode, but this ends the news part. It's longer than usual, but as said, I'm still learning and still working on my format, and this was news that I really wanted to share. A long-time game veteran. That's basically how I can call Jay Powell. The Powell Group, a video game consulting firm. And they're focused on business development, publishing, support, and licensing. And I reached out to him. Wanted to know a little bit more about his activities. What is he doing? Why is he doing it? And so one of what he says is, when I did ask him, like, what are you doing? How should we see it? And then he says, well, someone who helps companies of all sizes and getting their message outside, reach the right target audience, and get them the best deals and partners for the product. And I think with having his experience, he's a good man for the job. So we went on, because I wanted to know how is your agenda look like on a daily basis. And his answer was, no 2 days are the same. I'm sure you know that as well. And yes, Jay, I know. Coffee and reading, general starts the day. Everything from business and consumer game news to business articles. Then I do pass through my email, answering anything urgent and setting others off to later in the day. From there, I may be consulting with clients, talking to prospective new clients, or building relationships with new companies. His team is actually taking care of most of the pitching of products, and Jay is focusing on new clients and building the new relationships. So, all these years in gaming, tell me your fun experiences. His answer is, I've been doing this more than 20 years. 20 years. I've forgotten more fun times than I remember at this point. These days, just producing our podcast is more fun than I've had in a decade. Jay, I can relate to it. I get to share what I know and what the people I've worked with for 15 to 20 years that they know. And we don't have to put on a suit and travel to a conference to do just that. And that's actually really funny. It's sort of the same. I started to do the podcast. I don't know why, but one day to another, I thought, like, I'm going to check it out. I found an app, and now actually it's a little bit more work than I anticipated on, but it's fun to do so. It's fun to send out some messages to people and say, hey, would you like to give me some feedback? And besides that, I'm still learning. I hope that everyone who's listening is learning or is getting to know new people, and will reach out to them if it's relevant. So I can completely relate to what Jay was saying here. How are you looking at the game industry at the moment? And I wanted to know, concerning growth type of games, his opinion. Well, his first line was saying it. Same shit, different day. Smiley. There are always changes in the industry, but there's an awful lot that doesn't change and people don't think about it. The industry is in a good place. There's a lot of great games coming from smaller companies, and there's plenty of space for them if the developers approach it in the correct way. VR is starting to take a good hold, and it's getting to a point that it's affordable. Subscriptions are opening the long tail. That's interesting. Something that we want to discuss a little bit more in an episode or two from now. So, subscriptions are opening the long tail of sales back for the teams, up for the teams that manage it appropriately. Streaming has the potential to get any game out there in front of millions, and streamers make awesome playtesters as well. Most importantly, developers have options. Lots of options. I agree. Different kind of marketing techniques. Lastly, do you have some advice for gaming studios? Typical Jay. Very clear. When you don't enjoy it anymore, stop. Think about that. None of us got into the industry because it was the highest paying job we were looking at. We do this because we love games, we love making games, we love playing games, and we love watching other people play our games. If it isn't fun anymore, step back and re-evaluate. Jay, first of all, thanks for answering my questions. And secondly, you can really tell that you have 20 years of experience. If you look today at all the options that game developers have, in a way, the industry has become more competitive. But on the other hand, you have exactly what he was saying, so many more options than in the beginning of the industry starting to grow. Again, Jay, thanks, and let's keep in close contact. A couple of weeks ago, we all saw the news of Colibri Games being acquired by Ubisoft. I met Daniel during a game conference in Cologne, Gamescom. We had a chat, and he was sitting very relaxed. Actually, we were sitting at a Dorint Hotel, which is across the convention, and it was nice sunny weather, and we're sitting at a table, and that's what I do more often. I have a large table with chairs, and people just sit down and talk, and I do my meetings, introduce other people. That's what I like to do anyways, and you got great conversations, and so I reached out right after that acquisition. In fact, I reached out a little bit before. And Sneaky Daniel then said, no, nothing's cooking. And then a week later, there was the news. Smartass. Anyways, the questions I did ask, like, when did you start Colibri? In 2016, he said. In a student flat in Karlsruhe. My German. Ganz gut now. We were a couple of students with high hopes, a little entrepreneurial experience, and lots of ambition. We started an overly ambitious game, failed miserably, started over and created what became Idle Miner Tycoon. This is actually why I like the idea of having an item startup in gaming, because I've also seen some feedback from investors, how they actually look at pitch decks and how they then try to get a sense if a company could be successful. And one of the things I always tell, and which I read up on from an investor, was like, okay, so we don't believe the first game will be the super hit. It's more like learnings. The second should actually show that experience of the team is starting to work, some revenues, and then the third should really do it. It's an interesting way of how you look at a young gaming company. Anyways, it right away also led up to the question, why did you start a company? It was a most natural thing. Everything we had done at the point was trying to find out how we could start a successful company. We never even considered to start a proper career. If Colibri had failed, we would have to try something else. And that's exactly my point. You just need to do. You need to overcome failings. You need to keep trying. And keep your hopes also up. As Jay also said, if it ain't any fun anymore, then quit. Can you share a fun moment? The company started operations in the flat that Janosch and I shared. We brought the other founders in, started working. We hired our first interns, so quite a few people filled the flat during work hours. Then the landlord came by to check on why all the people were going in and out.